it is ridiculous that I haven't done a cake yet. I'm adapting it slightly from this book, which is British Baking by Peyton and Byrne, and it is a beautiful book, not just because of the lovely colour, but you can see it's been well loved. So I'm going to take the lemon drizzle recipe from here, the cake part, but I'm going to do a different drizzle because I personally like a bit of the crunch that you get on the drizzle, and this one wants you to make a syrup, which is fine, but I'm not about the syrup life with the cake. I want the crunchy bits of sugar on the top. So the first thing you need to do is preheat your oven to 170 degrees Celsius, and I have buttered a loaf tin and then lined it with baking paper, baking parchment. In my bowl, I've got 175 grams of unsalted butter, softened. So I've left this at room temperature, but if you have a cold slab of butter, you can just blitz it in the microwave. Keep an eye on it though, don't just put it in for a minute because it will all melt. I would give it 10-second intervals in the microwave and then check. And at the same quantity, so 175 grams of caster sugar, and something that I've forgotten to put in, a little pinch of salt. Just a little bit. And then you're just going to cream it together. How you're doing today? I would put this in my mixer, but I thought it's quite nice just to do it like this. Sometimes mixers are great. Sometimes mixers take the fun out of baking a little bit because you don't need to do the hard work yourself, and it's less satisfying. Also, I know during lockdown a lot of people have been making banana bread. Most of us have been on a bit of a banana bread frenzy. I'm probably not going to show you how to make a banana bread just because I think we're all a bit sick of banana bread. I'm sick of saying it because I've just said it like 4 times. So, that didn't take much time at all. So that's nice and creamed in together. That didn't take long at all because my butter was very soft. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take two unwaxed lemons. It's important to get unwaxed ones because I'm not sure what they do with lemons, but just make sure you get unwaxed ones. You don't want wax in a cake. So fine grater. If you've got a zester, that is perfect. I do have a zester. I don't like using it because I just don't feel like you get enough of the zest out of it. Maybe I've got a rubbish zester. So I'm just going to use the small grapes, and we just want the zest of both lemons. Now, this is something to be quite cautious of. Don't go mad with your grating. You want to go to the point that you can start to see the white bit. Do not grate the white bit into your cake. That is really bitter. That's the pith, and it'll end up tasting bitter and soapy. Nobody wants a bitter lemon drizzy. Getting drizzy with it. Na, 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 na. Sorry. Don't throw these lemons away because you will need them for your drizzle. So at the moment, to go and see anyone or do anything, I have to cycle. So I'm transporting quite a bit of baked goods around, and it's quite easy to transport a loaf cake. If I'd made a fancy kind of Victoria sponge or, you know, a fancy looking cake, you can't really put that in a backpack with a bike. You can with a loaf. So that's partly why I've chosen it. Someone also requested lemon drizzle, so this is for you. So that's all mixed in, and then we're gonna do 2 eggs, one at a time. So crack an egg in, mix it all up till it's combined, and then do the other egg. The eggs are mixed in. What we need to add in now is 75 mils of milk. I'm guessing this recipe book intends for you to do whole milk. I've got semi-skimmed, and for 70 mils, I'm not about to go and buy a pint of whole milk. So if you've got semi-skimmed, put that in. For slightly less calories maybe. And just give it a mix. So that's all mixed in. What you're going to do is swap your spoon to a metal one, because the next thing we're going to do is fold in some flour. I've got, it's like Blue Peter today, I've got 175 grams of plain flour and 1 teaspoon of baking powder, which will just give it a little bit of a lift. And we're just going to sieve that all in and then fold it in. Just give it a nice gentle fold until everything's just incorporated. And then that's pretty much done. So that is beautifully mixed in. And I'm just going to, this is a really big bowl. I am going to pour that into my loaf tin. And this is going to go into your preheated oven for about 45 minutes. So I'm going to check on it after 35 and see where we are, because my oven, as I've said before, runs quite hot. So yeah, about 45 minutes at 170 degrees Celsius. And if you're like me, it's going to be a nice cake, guys. Don't eat too much of this because it's got raw egg, but I'm a grown up, I can do what I want. I don't want to encourage your children to do bad things. Look away now, kids. This is a grown up thing. So while that's in the oven, we're going to make our drizzle, because the drizzle needs to be put on the cake as soon as it's out of the oven, so that all the warmth of the cake soaks up that lovely juice. So in here, I have got 100 grams of icing sugar. I've got your 2 lemons, which you did not throw away earlier, and we're just going to put the juice into the icing sugar. A good way to get as much juice out of your lemon as possible is just give it a roll on the counter. Yeah, just roll it like that and then cut it in half. If you've got a fancy juicer, not a fancy juicer, don't NutriBullet your lemons. If you've got one of those squishy things, fine, I don't. So I'm just going to squeeze it into my hand to catch any pips. This is also interesting if you have any paper cuts. I don't, but I have done before. Okay. Woo! And then just mix it up until it's all come together. You probably want to sieve in your icing sugar, because otherwise, like me, you're going to get some lumps, but I don't really think it matters. You can just use your spoon on the side to get rid of them like that. So we've got a drizzle ready to go for when the cake comes out of the oven. The cake is out of the oven. It took about 45 minutes, just like it said in the book. So that's really good. And I'll show you, it's obviously really hot. It's a nice cake, it's got a good crack. It's supposed to have a crack, by the way. Do not panic about a crack in your cake. Now, I've got a cake skewer, or you could use a small knife, or if you've got kebab skewers, use one of those, or what are they called, cocktail stick. And you're gonna stab the living daylights out of it, and you're gonna make lots of holes, because then we're going to pour in the drizzle, and then the drizzle is going to soak into all of those holes. So you want to have a lot in there. Don't pour it all in at once, because then it's just going to fall down the side. So just do a little bit at a time, and then you might need to ease it into some of those sort of holes that you've just made, or even make a couple more, just so that it gets into that cake. Do not panic that it feels quite a lot, because as I said, this is a drizzly cake. And the cake's warm, so it is going to soak everything up really nicely. And if it stops soaking in for a minute, just stop, pause yourself and give it a minute just to soak in, and then you can go again. And you're just going to let that sit there for, I'd say, about 20 minutes, and then we're going to take it out of the tin. It's been about 20 minutes now, and handy for these little bits of greaseproof paper, you're just going to lift it out of the pan, and then you can let it cool on the rack. And there you have a lovely lemon drizzle cake.